Welcome to Paul's Heart. I'm Paul, author of the book Paul's Heart, Life as a Dad and a 35-year cancer survivor, available on Amazon. I mentioned last week one of my family members suffering a multiple onslaught of strokes that occurred to the left side of the brain. And the way that it was recognized that this person was in trouble was something called expressive aphasia. Now, before I get into this, I want to express I'm not a doctor, I'm not a neurologist, I'm not a speech therapist, or anything else like that. I'm simply someone who has gone through and sharing the experience. Now, expressive aphasia is basically a neurological condition where individuals know what they're trying to say, but they just can't get the words out. Um, it's brain damage, okay, and it's frustrating for the people trying to understand, but it's even more frustration for the person trying to get the communication out. Um, Once this family member had been trying to communicate to me, and I realized this is the way the conversation would go. I I don't. I have to call you back. And now, granted, the phone calls would be a lot longer than that, and there would be a lot more delays in that. There was so much effort being put into her trying to get her thoughts out, and she just couldn't do that. Now, there are any number of possibilities for this type of brain injury. Whether it's a brain tumor, car accident, neurological disease, dementia, Lou Gehrig's disease, anything like that. In the case of my family member, it was definitely a stroke. Several of them. So the key, and this is where just a regular person. The key to understanding my family member is that I truly believe that they're able to have think completely. They are thinking normally. Everything is working the way it's supposed to, but they just can't get the words out. And understanding the way that strokes work and the particular part of the brain that it impacts, that I believe that the pathway from the brain to the mouth is damaged. So it's up to the speech therapist, the neurologist, it's up to them to figure all this other stuff out, as well as perhaps figure out an alternative way for my family member to communicate. In the meantime, I have been encouraging my family member, myself, to possibly try thinking of something else. I discovered last evening that they're able to read aloud. I had instructed them to read there's a channel that they were watching where a ticker ran along the bottom. And for about 3 or 4 minutes, I had them reading that and read it without interruption. Tried to keep up with it as best as they could. But it was fluent, it was flowing, there was no hesitation. Away from that, without looking at the TV and trying to have a regular conversation, we went back to that aphasia, unable to construct a complete thought, a complete sentence. And I shouldn't say to construct a complete thought. They have it up here, they just can't get it out here. So the fact that she was able to read the prompts at the bottom of the television screen gave me an idea. And I have been encouraging for several days now to come up with a different pathway to try and communicate. Seeing that the mouth does work and the brain is coming up with thoughts. How do we go from the brain to the mouth a different way? Going to the eyes, to the hands, writing down the thoughts, back to the eyes, to the mouth. I've been trying several days to get them to do this because following instructions is another issue that this person has. But this morning I received a phone call where my family member rattled off about 10 complete thoughts. And I let them go nonstop so that they could express them all. Not one interruption, not one hesitation, just kept doing that. My member found a way to communicate what's up here in her head without going from brain to mouth, which right now she's not able to do. This was huge, and I encouraged her to be hopeful because when a person is facing this kind of deficit from any kind of brain injury, it's frustrating that they can't communicate. I watched my brother in law who had Lou Gehrig's disease, unable to communicate. His brain was working perfectly. Eventually he would get an iPad that had a speaking program in, and he could just type the words that he wanted to say, press a button, and it would say it for him. But he still wanted to say it with his own mouth, his own words. So I'm glad that this works for the person. It's going to be a great thing to pass on to her caregivers, her speech therapist, her doctors, and let them know, hey, this is working so far. So hopefully this helps. Um, you don't recover from a stroke right away. It takes a long time. It takes effort and it takes patience. And I'm hoping that with today's breakthrough, my family understands that this is temporary and hopefully things are going to get better. Until next time, this is Paul's Heart.